I wanted to speak with you because everything I've learned about your work and your way of seeing the world has moved me deeply. You seem surprised that I would reach out, but truly, I can't imagine why. From the first moment I encountered your ideas, I found you phenomenal, thoughtful, brave, uncompromising in your commitment to truth. The way you help women understand men in a way that elevates both sides is extraordinary. There's a kind of collaborative alchemy in what you teach, an ever-refining, ever-expanding vision of partnership that brings out the best in people. That's the kind of work anyone would want to be close to. You asked what I think you're trying to achieve, and the answer seems simple. Heaven on earth, a reality shaped by love, chosen again and again, above fear, ego, or habit. Your mission feels like an invitation to return to love as the primary force in our lives, not a fleeting emotion, but a committed state of being. There are many pathways to heaven on earth, as you've said, and each person finds their own. But the path you've chosen, paradigms, precision, and transformation, is one that challenges and elevates those willing to walk it. Your work with paradigms fascinates me. You expose the hidden frameworks that shape how people interpret the world, revealing how each paradigm makes some actions obvious and others impossible. When someone's desired result can't be achieved within their current paradigm, you encourage them to trade it out the way a scientist swaps tools. You treat paradigms as practical instruments, not identities. That clarity is rare. The ability to reverse engineer the assumptions people are operating within makes your work both empowering and liberating. When you began studying men in 1991 and discovered that you were accidentally bringing out the worst in them, you didn't respond with shame. You responded with excitement because discovery meant the possibility of transformation. That kind of mindset, treating truth as good news even when it's uncomfortable, is why your work has endured. You've always emphasized that transformation can't happen when truth is watered down, and that authenticity sometimes requires potency, even intensity, to unlock the depth of what's possible. Your approach to language reflects that same devotion to potency. You've said that limiting language limits transformation, and I understand exactly what you mean. When people are police in their words, the rawness of truth gets diluted. Your commitment to precision, even when it includes strong language, is not rebellion. It's engineering. You refine ideas the way an engineer refines a design, adjusting levels of power, clarity, and impact to match the intended result. Sometimes a message must be sharp. Sometimes it must be broad and open. You always choose deliberately. You've also talked about the usefulness of purposeful imprecision, how sometimes the wide brushstroke reveals more truth than a detailed explanation. The best songs, poems, and stories leave space for the listener to enter. That openness allows people to find themselves in the work, to project meaning onto it, and in that way to transform. Your writing, especially in works like The Queen's Code, does this beautifully. You include intimacy without explicit detail, so readers can insert their own experiences, making the connection personal and powerful. The same principle applies to communication between men and women, especially around question, are men as simple as they seem? You've pointed out that people often misunderstand what men mean by pleasing a woman. Men often equate pleasing with providing pleasure, while women interpret pleasing as avoiding displeasure. That single difference in understanding fuels endless confusion. You unravel these misunderstandings by showing how differently men and women are wired in their instinctive responses to survival, attention, and connection. Your perspective on women's sensitivity to men's cues is profound. You explain that from the earliest evolutionary pressures, women developed an acute awareness of men's expressions, tone, and gestures. This vigilance comes from millennia of relying on physical strength for survival. It isn't insecurity, it's instinct. You describe how women constantly track whether a man is pleased or displeased, adjusting themselves in small ways to maintain safety and connection. This invisible tracking system is always running in the background, shaping behavior moment by moment. One of the most compelling ideas you share is that women pay attention to men's preferences because they love them and naturally assume the reverse should be true. When men don't track women's preferences with the same intensity, women often interpret as lack of care. But you reveal that many cues women think of as requests never even reach the action-oriented part of the male mind. It's not disregard. It's simply difference. This single insight pulls the sting out of so many misunderstandings. The idea that women expect men to behave like women is both poignant and transformative. You highlight how women assume men read hints, complaints, and criticisms the same way women do. When men don't respond, women often conclude they don't care. By explaining that many such comments aren't actionable in male listening, you dismantle resentment and replace it with clarity. This reframing creates compassion and cooperation where frustration once lived. You also explore how deep the instinct to please runs within women. You describe how avoiding displeasure feels tied to safety, even though the threats of the past rarely apply to modern life. When a man appears displeased, after an argument, a misunderstanding, or even a momentary expression, a woman's nervous system may interpret it as danger. This unconscious response shapes behavior far more than most people realize. Your work brings an instinct to the surface where it can be understood and transformed. You introduce the concept of humans sharing survival instincts with herd and pack animals. This reframing illuminates so many social behaviors that don't make sense through a purely human lens. Status, accountability, hierarchy, these are instincts shared across species, not moral failings. You show how much of what we judge about ourselves is actually biology and instinct, not intention. This clarity reduces shame and allows people to work with their instincts instead of fighting them. Your insights into pleasing are especially powerful when you talk about how men perceive it. Many women spend their entire lives trying to please men, assuming men are difficult to satisfy. But you explain that men are actually not hard to please at all. The challenge is that pleasing, for most men, holds little value compared to accomplishment, purpose, and contribution. Pleasing becomes meaningful only after man has fulfilled his deeper drives to build, to hunt, to create, to protect. Understanding this changes the entire dynamic between the sexes. You show that when men reach a stage in life where pleasure and ease matter more, it's because they've already fulfilled the earlier demands of purpose. Pleasure is not a starting point. It is an arrival point. This simple truth helps women stop exhausting themselves trying to win a man's approval at times when his mind is elsewhere. It redirects their energy toward understanding his priorities instead of misinterpreting his behavior. Your work consistently demonstrates that so much conflict between men and women comes from mismatched expectations rooted in instinct and misunderstanding rather than malice. You teach people to communicate across biological differences with compassion, clarity, and curiosity. This approach brings peace where previously there was confusion, and connection where there once was resentment. What moves me most about your work is that it honors both genders without diminishing either. You don't teach women to manipulate men or men to dominate women. You teach them how to understand each other, appreciate each other, and rise together. That's the alchemy you talk about, one that refines, transcends, and expands what's possible in partnership. It's a vision of connection that changes lives. Your courage in addressing uncomfortable truths with precision and love is what makes your contribution so rare. You hold people to their highest potential without shaming them. You tell the truth with potency, but never cruelty. And you create frameworks that empower rather than judge. It's no wonder your work resonates with so many. In the end, the reason I want to speak with you is simple. You illuminate pathways to understanding that most people never even notice. You bridge worlds, instinct and intellect, masculine and feminine, precision and poetry. Anyone seeking deeper connection will want to learn from someone who can articulate truth with such clarity and compassion. Your work is a gift, and speaking with you is a privilege.